Some people don't cry in front of others. They wait until midnight, when the whole world is asleep, and then silently break apart alone. The saddest pain is not loud. It's the kind that sits quietly inside someone's chest for years, while they keep smiling like nothing happened. There are people who reply with, "I'm fine," every day, while secretly fighting battles so heavy they don't even know how to explain them anymore. Sometimes a person becomes quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because their heart got tired of feeling misunderstood. And honestly, the people who suddenly go silent after being hurt are usually the ones who once loved the deepest. Some people don't scream when they're hurt. They don't break things. They don't start arguments. They don't tell the world what happened to them. Instead, they slowly become quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because they realize nobody truly listens. There are people walking around every day carrying storms inside their chest, while their face looks completely calm. People think silence means peace, but sometimes silence is just pain that has lost the energy to explain itself anymore. The saddest part is, most quiet people were not always this way. Once, they talked too much. They laughed loudly. They trusted easily. They loved deeply. They believed people would stay. But life has a strange way of changing soft hearts into silent souls. Every disappointment teaches something. Every betrayal removes a little innocence. Every ignored feeling slowly pushes a person inward, until one day they stop expressing completely, and the world misunderstands them. People call them cold, distant, emotionless, dry, hard to understand. But nobody asks what happened to them before they became like this, because silence does not appear overnight. It is built slowly, through heartbreak, abandonment, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. A person becomes quiet after realizing their feelings are too heavy for people who only know how to listen casually. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is carrying the loudest pain inside their mind. They replay conversations in their head for hours. They remember tiny changes in behavior. They notice when energy shifts, when replies become shorter, when love becomes forced, when someone slowly stops caring. And because they notice everything deeply, they suffer deeply too. But instead of reacting loudly, they retreat silently. That is the psychology of emotionally hurt people. The more pain they carry, the less they speak about it, because at some point they learn something dangerous. Explaining pain does not guarantee understanding, so they stop trying. You may sit beside them every day and never realize how much they are fighting internally. Some people have mastered the art of pretending they are okay. They smile at work. They reply politely. They laugh at jokes. They post normal pictures online, but deep inside, they feel emotionally disconnected from the world around them. And nobody notices, because silent pain rarely looks dramatic. In movies, broken people cry loudly in the rain. In real life, broken people often become quieter and quieter until even their own emotions feel distant. One of the deepest psychological effects of emotional pain is emotional shutdown. When a person gets hurt repeatedly, the brain slowly starts protecting itself, not by healing, but by becoming numb. That numbness changes personality. The person who once cared too much suddenly starts acting like nothing affects them anymore. Not because they stopped feeling, but because feeling became too exhausting. There is a reason many deeply emotional people isolate themselves after being hurt. They are tired. Tired of explaining, tired of hoping, tired of expecting honesty from people who only know temporary loyalty. So silence becomes their safest place. In silence, nobody can judge their feelings. Nobody can manipulate their vulnerability. Nobody can use their emotions against them. And slowly, loneliness starts feeling safer than attachment. That is one of the saddest transformations a human being can experience, when peace feels easier to find alone than with people. The human mind remembers emotional pain very deeply, especially people who love sincerely. Because sincere people do not experience attachment casually. They attach emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So when they are betrayed, something inside them changes permanently. After enough pain, they stop expressing emotions naturally. You will notice it in small things. They type long messages, then delete them. They want to call someone, then decide not to. They feel hurt, but say, "I'm fine." They miss people silently instead of chasing them, not because they don't care, but because they fear becoming emotionally unwanted. And once someone feels emotionally unwanted enough times, silence becomes a habit, a very painful habit. Some people became quiet because every time they opened their heart, it was misunderstood. Every vulnerable confession became weakness in someone else's eyes, so eventually they learned, stay silent. It hurts less. But the truth is, silence does not remove pain. It only hides it deeper. And hidden pain has a dangerous way of growing silently inside people. This is why many quiet people suddenly break down years later. Because emotions that are never expressed do not disappear. They stay trapped inside the body and mind. Sometimes it becomes anxiety, sometimes depression, sometimes emotional numbness, sometimes complete detachment from everyone. The human heart was never designed to carry everything alone, but sadly, many people learned they have no choice. One of the most heartbreaking things about emotionally hurt people is that they still care deeply, even after everything. They still check if others reached home safely. They still remember birthdays. They still replay conversations, wondering if they hurt someone accidentally, because pain did not make them cruel. It only made them quieter. And honestly, quiet people often love the deepest because they understand emotional pain in ways others never will. They know how damaging careless words can be. They know what abandonment feels like at 2 a.m. They know how loneliness sounds in a crowded room. So when they love someone, they try to become the kind of person they once needed themselves. But sadly, deeply emotional people are often the ones hurt the most because they give chances too many times. They see potential in people. They forgive behavior they should walk away from. They stay loyal even when they are emotionally starving, until one day, something inside them finally breaks. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, and that quietness changes everything. After that point, they stop arguing, stop chasing, stop begging for understanding, because they realize something painful. If someone truly cares, you should not have to constantly explain why their actions hurt you. So instead of fighting, they emotionally withdraw, and people mistake that withdrawal for indifference. But emotionally exhausted people are not indifferent. They are wounded. There is a huge difference. Some people become quiet because they grew up in environments where expressing emotions was unsafe. Maybe they were ignored as children. Maybe they were mocked for crying. Maybe nobody taught them emotional security, so they learned to survive by suppressing emotions. Children who constantly feel emotionally unheard often become adults who struggle to express pain openly. They become experts at hiding sadness. Even while breaking internally, psychology explains that humans naturally seek emotional safety. When speaking honestly repeatedly leads to rejection or disappointment, the brain adapts by becoming more reserved. That silence is not weakness, it is emotional self-protection. And sometimes it becomes so strong that the person themselves forgets how to open up again. That is why some people say, "I don't know how to explain what I feel." It is not because they feel nothing. It is because they have spent years burying emotions too deeply. You may notice that quiet hurt people often disappear for long periods. They stop replying, they isolate themselves, they avoid conversations, not because they hate people, but because they are mentally overwhelmed. Their mind becomes too loud internally, and when the inner world becomes painful enough, external communication starts feeling exhausting. Sometimes they just sit alone replaying memories, thinking about old conversations, old friendships, old versions of themselves, wondering where things changed, wondering why they were never enough for the people they loved sincerely. That question destroys many soft-hearted people. Why was my love never enough? And the dangerous thing is, they rarely ask this question out loud. They carry it silently. Every day, people often underestimate how deeply emotional rejection affects sensitive minds. A cold reply can stay in their thoughts for weeks. A changed tone can ruin their entire night. A feeling of distance can make them emotionally panic internally. Because emotionally aware people notice things others ignore. They feel energy shifts immediately. And while this deep awareness makes them compassionate, it also makes them vulnerable to emotional suffering. The world praises people for being strong. But sometimes, strength is simply becoming silent enough that nobody notices your pain anymore. And honestly, that is not always healthy. Some people became so good at hiding emotions that even their closest friends have no idea what they are going through. They mastered emotional masking, smiling while hurting, helping others while falling apart themselves, giving advice while secretly feeling lost inside, because somewhere along the way, they believed their pain would burden others. So instead of asking for help, they disappear emotionally. One of the saddest realities of human psychology is this: the people who need the most love often ask for it the least, not because they don't want comfort, but because they fear rejection more than loneliness itself. So they stay quiet, even during their darkest moments, and many people never realize how close someone was to emotionally collapsing, because the person never spoke about it. Silence hides suffering extremely well. That is why kindness matters more than most people realize. A simple check-up message, a genuine conversation, a moment of patience. These small things can mean everything to someone silently struggling, because emotionally hurt people are not always looking for solutions. Sometimes they just want to feel emotionally safe again. Safe enough to speak honestly without feeling judged. Safe enough to cry without feeling weak. Safe enough to exist without pretending constantly. But unfortunately, modern life teaches people to hide emotions instead of processing them. Everyone says, "I'm fine," while carrying invisible battles, and over time, people forget how to emotionally connect genuinely. That is why so many deeply hurt people feel alone even when surrounded by others. Because physical presence is not emotional connection. You can sit beside someone every day and still never truly see their pain. Real emotional connection requires attention, and attention has become rare. Most people listen to respond. Very few listen to understand. That is why emotionally intelligent people often become quieter over time. They realize shallow conversations cannot hold deep emotions. So instead of forcing connection, they retreat inward. But beneath that silence, there is usually a heart that still hopes someone will finally understand them without making them beg for empathy. And maybe that is what hurts the most. Not the pain itself, but feeling emotionally unseen while carrying it. Some people are not asking the world to save them. They simply want someone to notice they are not okay, without them having to say it directly, because constantly explaining pain becomes exhausting after a while, especially when previous honesty was ignored. So they start giving smaller signs, less energy, less talking, longer disappearances, quieter voices, forced smiles. But sadly, most people only notice loud suffering. Quiet suffering goes invisible, and invisible pain can become extremely dangerous. There are people who lost themselves emotionally years ago, but continued functioning normally on the outside. That is the frightening part about emotional numbness. A person can look completely okay while internally feeling disconnected from life itself. Sometimes emotionally hurt people stop dreaming completely, not because they lack ambition, but because survival becomes their main focus. Getting through the day becomes enough. And nobody notices because they continue acting normal externally. Psychology calls this emotional suppression, but emotionally, it feels like drowning silently while nobody realizes you need help. Still, despite everything, many quiet people continue loving others gently. That is what makes them beautiful. Pain did not destroy their humanity completely. Even after disappointment, they still try to protect others from feeling what they once felt. They become softer with broken people, kinder with lonely souls, more patient with emotional pain. Because suffering gave them emotional depth, and emotional depth changes people forever. Some of the kindest hearts carry the heaviest scars. That is why you should never assume silence means someone is okay. Sometimes silence is grief. Sometimes silence is heartbreak. Sometimes silence is exhaustion. Sometimes silence is someone trying very hard not to fall apart in front of others. And maybe the strongest people are not the loud ones. Maybe the strongest people are the ones fighting silent wars inside themselves every single day, while still finding reasons to stay kind. So if someone you love suddenly becomes quieter, pay attention. Not every wound bleeds visibly. Sometimes the deepest emotional pain hides behind calm voices, short replies, and tired eyes. Talk to them gently. Be patient with them. And most importantly, make them feel heard. Because a person who feels emotionally safe slowly starts speaking again, slowly starts trusting again, slowly starts becoming themselves again. Healing does not happen loudly either. Just like pain, healing often happens quietly. One safe conversation at a time, one honest moment at a time, one person who truly listens at a time. And sometimes, that is enough to save a heart that almost gave up on being understood completely. So if you're someone who hides pain behind silence, just know this: your quietness does not make you weak. Sometimes the strongest hearts are the ones suffering silently while still trying to stay kind to everyone around them. And maybe tonight, there's someone watching this video who smiled all day while secretly falling apart inside. So tell me honestly, have you ever gone completely quiet because you were hurt too deeply to explain it anymore? You don't have to hide here. Read the comments or leave your story below. Sometimes strangers understand pain better than the people closest to us.